There are villains, and then there's Doctor Doom. It's a name that echoes through Marvel Comics with the weight of absolute power and an ego to match. When you think of Doom, you picture the tyrant in the Iron Mask, a scientific genius who goes toe-to-toe with Reed Richards, and a sorcerer who can challenge the gods. His goal, or so we've always been told, is simple: world domination. He's the monarch of Latveria, the enemy of the Fantastic Four, a would-be conqueror who genuinely believes he's the only one fit to rule us all. But what if that's not even half the story? What if the conquest, the armor, that whole terrifying persona was just a tool? A weapon forged for a much deeper, much more tragic purpose? What if the real war he's fighting isn't for our world at all, but for a single soul trapped in another? Dr. Doom's greatest enemy isn't the Fantastic Four. It's not the Avengers. It is the demon lord Mephisto, who holds his mother's soul hostage in the fiery pits of hell. This is the story of how a man's desperate love for his mother drives him to battle the devil himself every single year in a secret war that has defined his entire life. And it is this tragic, hidden conflict that will almost certainly define his earth-shattering arrival in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, revealing a villain more complex, more driven, and more dangerous than anyone is ready for. If you want to understand the man in the Iron Mask, you don't start with the armor. You have to start with the boy, Victor Von Doom, and the crushing world he was born into. Victor wasn't royalty. He was a child of the Zephyro, a Romani clan living under the thumb of the oppressive kingdom of Latveria. Here, his people were outsiders, persecuted, feared, and left to survive against the bitter cold and the even colder hatred of the ruling class. Victor's world was small, but it revolved around two giants: his father, Werner, a renowned healer, and his mother, Cynthia, a woman with a fierce spirit and a secret power. Cynthia Von Doom was more than a mother. She was a protector. Seeing the suffering of her people and the cruelty of the local baron, she refused to stand by. She was a sorceress, a keeper of ancient arts, and in her desperation to shield her clan, she reached for a power she couldn't possibly control. She wanted a weapon against the Baron's soldiers, something to guarantee the safety of her son and her people. And so she made a deal, a pact with a being of immense and terrible power, the demon Mephisto. Mephisto, being Mephisto, granted her wish. He gave her the power she craved, but the cost, as it always is with the devil, was far greater than she imagined. The magic he gave her was wild and uncontrollable. It lashed out, and while it struck down her enemies, it also killed the innocent children of a nearby village. The power she'd bartered for had twisted into a monstrous curse. Shattered by what she'd done, and with her spirit broken, Cynthia was left vulnerable. The Baron's soldiers found her and fatally wounded her. With her dying breath, she made Werner promise to keep their son, Victor, away from the dark magic that had led to her ruin. But it was too late. Because of her deal, her soul found no peace. Mephisto claimed it, dragging it down to his hellish realm to suffer for all time. Victor was just a boy, but that loss carved a hole in his world that would never be filled. His father, Werner, tried to honor Cynthia's last wish, steering his brilliant son away from the mystical artifacts she'd left behind. He saw the same fire in Victor's eyes, that same refusal to accept the world as it is. But Werner's protection wasn't enough. When the Baron summoned him to treat his dying wife, Werner knew it was a setup. He failed, just as the Baron expected, and had to flee into the winter wilderness with young Victor. He died in the freezing mountains, shielding his son with his own body, leaving Victor utterly alone, orphaned, hunted, and consumed by a grief that curdled into pure rage. Victor Von Doom found his mother's hidden trunk. Inside were her arcane treasures, the very tools of her power and her downfall. And right there, his life's mission began. He devoured her knowledge, blending his natural scientific genius with her forbidden magic. He became a prodigy in both worlds, a mind without equal. His intellect got him a scholarship to Empire State University in America, where he first met the man who would become his public rival for life, Reed Richards. But Victor wasn't there to get a degree. Every experiment, every single calculation was aimed at one thing: punching a hole in reality to reach the netherworld. He was building a machine not for fame, but to see his mother again. This obsession led to the infamous accident that changed him forever. He built a device, a gateway to Mephisto's realm. Reed Richards, ever the pragmatist, saw flaws in Victor's math and tried to warn him. But in his arrogance, Victor blew him off, convinced it was just jealousy. He activated the machine. For a split second, it worked. Victor's mind was thrown into the demonic dimension where he briefly saw Mephisto and the tormented soul of his mother. But the demon just taunted him with a cruel laugh before casting him out. The machine overloaded, exploding in Victor's face and scarring him terribly. Expelled from the university and believing he was a monster, Victor wandered the world, a man without a home, a face, or a purpose beyond his vow. He traveled to the Himalayas, finding a hidden order of monks to complete his transformation. There, he forged his iconic armor, a suit that wasn't just a weapon, but a cage for his rage. He demanded the monks place the faceplate on him while it was still glowing hot, sealing his flesh and his fate beneath a mask of cold iron. He was no longer Victor Von Doom. He was now Dr. Doom, the monarch of vengeance. He returned to Latveria, overthrew the corrupt baron, and declared himself absolute ruler. The world saw a new tyrant rise, obsessed with power. But they didn't see the truth. Every scrap of power he gathered, every scientific marvel and mystic spell he mastered was all just fuel for his secret war. A war to finish what he started in that college lab, to descend into hell and bring his mother home. With Latveria in his fist and its resources at his command, Dr. Doom started a tradition, a terrible ritual that would become the secret center of his entire reign. Once every year, on Midsummer's Eve, Doom would stop everything. World domination plans, on hold. Vendettas against his enemies, forgotten. On this one night, he would leave his throne, retreat to the deepest lab in Castle Doom, and prepare for his personal crusade. This wasn't just some magic spell. It was the ultimate fusion of science and sorcery that only Doom could create. He would calibrate machines pulsing with alien tech, all designed to pinpoint the precise frequency of Mephisto's realm. He'd etch mystic wards onto his armor, chanting incantations from forbidden books that would drive lesser men insane. For 364 days a year, he was a king, a scientist, a general. But on this night, he was just a son on a journey into the heart of darkness. The journey itself was an absolute ordeal. He'd use his tech to rip open a screaming vortex in reality, leading straight to the sulfurous, blood-red skies of Mephisto's domain. And he would step through alone. On Earth, Dr. Doom is practically a god. His armor can take a punch from the Hulk. His mind can outwit cosmic beings. His will is absolute. But in hell, the rules are different. Here, Mephisto is the architect of reality itself. All of Doom's power is just a flickering candle in a hurricane. He's a mortal trespassing in the devil's court. Mephisto, for his part, seemed to enjoy the whole show. The Lord of Lies had even struck a twisted deal with Doom. He'd give him one shot each year to fight for his mother's soul. But the deal was poisoned. Each time Doom failed, the hearts of his own people in Latveria would grow colder, their fear turning into hatred. It was a slow, psychological torture, designed not just to ensure Doom's failure, but to strip away the love of the very nation he fought to perfect. It also guaranteed the slow damnation of Doom's own soul, a price he was more than willing to pay. The yearly battles were rarely simple fights. Mephisto isn't a brawler, he's a tempter. He wouldn't meet Doom on a battlefield, but would drag him through a maze of psychological torment. One year he'd conjure a vision of a world where Doom had saved his parents, a world of peace, only to rip it away and make him relive the trauma all over again. Another year he'd force Doom to fight through demons wearing the faces of his most trusted allies. The cruelest tortures always involved his mother, Cynthia. Mephisto would let Doom get tantalizingly close, to see her just beyond a wall of fire crying out for him. He'd bring her forward just to show Doom his absolute control over her, a puppet in the devil's hands. These weren't just fights, they were lessons in hopelessness. Mephisto would offer him anything to stop. The world, cosmic knowledge, unimaginable power, all his if he would just give up and leave his mother to her fate. And every single time, Doom's answer was the same. A guttural, metallic roar of defiance. Doom does not bargain. He fought with everything he had. He'd unleash his armor's plasma cannons and particle beams. He'd counter Mephisto's dark magic with his own powerful spells, throwing up shields of emerald energy. He'd even use his scientific mind to analyze the physics of hell itself, looking for a loophole in the devil's own design. And every single year he would fail. Sometimes he was just outmatched. Other times, Mephisto would twist the rules of their contest until victory was impossible. But no matter what, the end was always the same. A beaten, battered, but never broken Doctor Doom would be cast out of hell, the portal slamming shut, leaving him to nurse his wounds and his failure for another year. The silence in his lab was heavier than any defeat. It was the silence of a son who had failed his mother yet again. And this is the secret key to his whole character. His arrogance, his bombastic declarations, they aren't just ego. They're armor for his soul. He has to believe he's the best because if he lets a single shred of doubt in, he's lost. His obsession with control, his desire to perfect Latveria and then the world is born from this yearly lesson in being utterly powerless. He seeks to control everything on Earth, because it's the one place he isn't at the mercy of a demon. This impossible, recurring battle against hell itself isn't a distraction from his goal of world domination. It is his goal. The world is just the prize he thinks he needs to finally win his true, tragic war. Year after year, the cycle continued. Doom challenged, Mephisto tormented, and Cynthia's soul remained trapped. Victor's will was incredible, but it wasn't enough. He was a genius, a king, a sorcerer of insane power, but he'd hit a wall. To win this war, he needed something more. He needed a different weapon, a different kind of power. He needed an ally. And in a move that shocked the mystical world, Dr. Doom, the man who saw himself as superior to everyone, decided he had to ask for help. That decision leads us to one of the greatest Doctor Doom stories ever told. The graphic novel, Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom, Triumph and Torment. The story kicks off with a summons. An ancient being called the Aged Genghis calls the most powerful sorcerers on Earth to a hidden temple for a contest to determine the Sorcerer Supreme. Among them is the current Sorcerer Supreme himself, Dr. Stephen Strange. And, to everyone's alarm, the armored monarch of Latveria, Dr. Doom. Strange is immediately suspicious. Why is a guy like Doom here? The contest begins, and sorcerers are eliminated one by one, until only two are left standing, Doctor Strange and Dr. Doom. As you'd expect, Strange's mastery wins out, and he keeps his title. But the ancient rules have a catch. The winner must grant a single favor to the runner-up. In that moment, Strange got it. The whole thing was a setup. Doom never meant to win. He calculated that he was strong enough to beat everyone else, but not Strange. He was aiming for second place all along. His request was simple. He demanded Doctor Strange help him on a quest to travel into Mephisto's realm and finally free the soul of his mother. Strange was horrified. Helping a villain like Doom was unthinkable, but he was bound by ancient magic, an obligation he couldn't refuse. He traveled to Castle Doom, where, for the first time, Victor shared the full tragic story of his mother's pact. For just a moment, the iron mask fell away, and Strange saw not a tyrant, but a grieving son. Their journey into hell was different. This time, Doom wasn't alone. He had the Sorcerer Supreme at his side. They fought through the twisted landscapes of Mephisto's domain, a reality built on lies. Strange was hit with visions of his own failures, but they pushed through, their combined power holding back the demon hordes. Finally, they stood before Mephisto. The Demon Lord was thrilled, seeing two powerful souls to torment. He made Doom an offer, the ultimate bribe. "Forget your mother," he hissed. "I'll give you Doctor Strange's soul instead, a far more valuable prize. Condemn your rival, and your mother is free." And in what looked like the ultimate act of villainy, Doctor Doom accepted. He turned on Strange, incapacitated him, and handed him over to Mephisto. Triumphant, Mephisto released Cynthia Von Doom's soul. For the first time in decades, Victor saw his mother free. But her soul, having seen her son betray an ally, was filled with disgust. She looked at the man he'd become and renounced him. It was a soul-crushing blow. The one person whose love he fought for his entire life had just cast him aside. But this was the final, brilliant move in Doom's plan. He knew this would happen. He knew his mother was a good person. By forcing her to make a selfless choice, to reject a freedom bought by evil, her soul was purified. It became so righteous that it could no longer be held by hell. A brilliant white light erupted from her, and she ascended, finally finding peace. Doom had not just freed his mother, he had outscammed the devil. Enraged, Mephisto cast them both back to Earth. The quest was over. Doom had won his secret war. But the victory was bittersweet, a true moment of triumph and torment. He had saved his mother's soul but lost her love. He was free but more alone than ever. This act cemented his legacy not as a simple conqueror, but as one of the most complex, cunning, and tragically heroic figures in all of Marvel. So, what does this decades-long war with the devil mean for Doctor Doom's entrance into the MCU? It means everything. We've seen villains driven by greed, nihilism, or a twisted sense of balance. But with Doom, the MCU can introduce a villain whose ultimate motivation isn't conquest, but salvation. A motivation rooted in a son's love for his mother. The stage is officially set. After years of fan theories, Mephisto is in the MCU, played by Sacha Baron Cohen, making his debut in the Ironheart series. He's already been established as a master manipulator, making a Faustian bargain with Riri Williams to resurrect her friend. Proving his power over souls is a very real threat. This isn't just an Easter egg, it's the foundation for a massive cosmic conflict. Now imagine Doctor Doom, played by the returning Robert Downey Jr., stepping onto this stage. When this Doom arrives, he won't just be a Latvian dictator. Avengers. Doomsday is set to be a multiversal epic with Doom as the central villain. But his goal might not be the same as the comics' Secret Wars, where he becomes a god just for the sake of power. This Doom has a deeper, more desperate need. The comics showed him succeeding in freeing his mother. But the MCU could show us a Doom who hasn't succeeded yet. A Doom still trapped in that soul-crushing yearly cycle of failure. In that case, his quest for ultimate power isn't about ruling the multiverse. It's about getting the one thing he's always lacked: the power to finally win his war against Mephisto. Think about it. What if Doom's interest in the multiverse isn't about conquering infinite Earths, but about finding one reality, one weapon, one source of power great enough to destroy a primordial being like Mephisto? What if he tries to collapse the multiverse and create his own battle world, not as an act of tyranny, but as an act of desperation? To create a single reality where he finally has the home field advantage against the devil. This reframes him from a simple megalomaniac into a tragic anti-hero on a cosmic scale. The Avengers wouldn't just be standing in the way of world domination. They'd be in the way of a man trying to save his mother from eternal damnation. This creates a far more compelling villain. How do you fight a man willing to burn down all of reality for a cause that is, at its heart, a noble one? It also sets up incredible conflicts. Doctor Strange, as Sorcerer Supreme, would be honor-bound to oppose him, potentially leading to a live-action version of their Triumph and Torment alliance and betrayal. Wanda Maximoff, a character defined by grief and the desperate need to reclaim lost family, would see a dark reflection of herself in Doom. Mephisto himself becomes a Thanos-level threat, but a different kind. He isn't a warlord, he's a corruptor. He could be the puppet master behind Doomsday and Secret Wars, whispering in Doom's ear, offering him the power of the Beyonders for a price that would damn the entire multiverse. Doom's quest to defeat Mephisto could accidentally make him the demon's greatest pawn. The ultimate goal for the MCU's Doctor Doom may be to become a god, but the reason will be different. He won't want the power of God Emperor Doom just to rule. He'll want it to unmake hell itself, to rewrite the rules of reality so his mother never made that bargain, to create a universe where she never suffered. This is a villain whose motives are so potent, so tragically human, that audiences might find themselves struggling to root against him. He would be the villain who forces the heroes and us to ask a terrifying question. If you had the power to burn down the universe to save someone you loved from an eternity of pain, would you? In the end, the story of Victor Von Doom is the ultimate Marvel tragedy. It's the story of a man who wears a monstrous mask to hide his scarred face, but the real mask is the one of tyranny hiding a broken heart. The world sees a conqueror whose ambition is matched only by his arrogance. But beneath the cold metal lies the engine of his entire life, a son's promise to free his mother from the devil's clutches. Every action he takes is another step in his secret holy war. When Doctor Doom finally arrives in the MCU, he won't just be fighting the heroes for the planet. He will be fighting for the soul of Cynthia Von Doom, a conflict that goes beyond good and evil and into the realm of myth. This doesn't excuse his actions, but it elevates them, making him the most dangerous, compelling, and tragically sympathetic villain the MCU has ever seen. He is a monster, forged from love, a tyrant driven by grief, and a man who would challenge both God and the devil to right the one wrong that defined him. But I want to know what you guys think. How should the MCU handle this incredible backstory? Will Doom be a tragic hero or the ultimate villain of the multiverse saga? Let me know your theories down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this look into the secret heart of Doctor Doom, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into comic book lore.